Hello and welcome to AFSPA Live, our monthly digital broadcast designed to give AFSPA members and eligible federal employees a place to ask questions and get answers about past AFSPA Talks topics, their benefits, and wellness needs. There are 3 primary ways you can join our broadcast. Join us live by clicking the link in this video description and following the instructions to allow access to your camera and microphone. Then, a show moderator will be available to assist you further. You can ask your question through the chat box on whichever social media platform you're streaming AFSPA Live, YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. If you're not able to join us live, call our toll-free line prior to the broadcast at 888-435-0757 and leave our team a voice message that we may play back and answer live on air. Just tell us who you are and the question you'd like us to answer. I'll see you at the next AFSPA Live.
Hi everyone, welcome to AFSPA Live. AFSPA Live is our live Q&A broadcast session that we host every last Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. My name is Maddie Norton, and I'll be moderating today. I'm a Junior Communication Coordinator at AFSPA, and with me today is our COO, Kyle Longton, and we also have a special guest from Aetna, Barb Gamble, and we'll be discussing alternative benefits.
Maddie, thank you very much. Just so it's clear, I'm Kyle Longton, and the other person we're seeing on the screen is Barb Gamble. Barb, you are the director of our claim service operations.
Correct.
For the Foreign Service Benefit Plan, technically under Aetna, but that you've been with the plan for, I think you told me 38 years.
Correct. It'll be in June, right?
Yes. So you've been under Mutual of Omaha and Coventry, and now Aetna, and I guess technically CVS is the parent company now, right?
Absolutely right. Correct. That's correct.
Okay. Before we go much further, it is Take Your Child to Work Day, so I want to introduce 2 other co-hosts that are supporting in the background. This is Cora, and this is Lucy. They are my twins. They'll be 7 next month, and they're in 1st grade. Can you all say hello?
Yeah.
They asked also, which is a question I think we got some from members, what are alternative benefits? So Barb, I'm going to ask you if your team handles all the claims for alternative benefits, all the claims period. What do we mean when we're saying that?
Yeah. Alternative benefits primarily are your chiropractic services, your acupuncture, and your massage therapy, which all are very generous benefits provided under the Foreign Service Benefit Plan.
Fantastic, and somewhat unique. At least the massage therapy still remains somewhat unique for us. And we've gotten, we get questions about this a lot, and we do offer up to 50 visits of each kind of service every year, every calendar year for everybody covered, and those are reimbursed up to $60 US per year. So I know we've had some questions about that, so we've covered alternative services and that, but Maddie, I think we've gotten some more in-depth, some more detailed questions that we might want to pivot to now.
Yes, we have. So one of the main questions we got was just kind of basic, where do you submit your alternative benefit claims for reimbursement?
Sure. So there's, and Barbara, I'm going to come to you for some more details, but I'll just mention to folks, you can do that the best way, the fastest way is through the online member portal at myafspa.org. You log into the account. There's one account per family right now. We're looking at other options. There's one account per family tied to the email address for the primary enrollee that we have on record. But there's also a form that you fill out, and some of the information that we're asking there is really important and really helps Barb's team complete that. And Barbara, I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about sort of the information that comes through.
Sure. That what normally there's certain fields, and what we're looking for is who actually received the service. So it'll have an ID number, which is the main subscriber ID number. That's the number that begins with a W. But then also who is receiving the services. You could some people might just put massage, acupuncture, or they might say the reason for the visit. I had a cold, something like that. Any of that information that you populate helps us when we're processing that claim. We just recently also added added a field called country of service. And we want to know which country you receive those services in. Some people also provide the exchange rate on that cover sheet to help us. So basically, that information that you populate comes through to us along with your claim submission, and we use all that information to process the claim under the correct benefit.
And Barbara, it sounds like that can make things go faster, particularly for our members overseas who are sending in claims that may be in Spanish. And it could be a number of different countries, obviously, with if it's Spanish language, or it could be a language we don't immediately identify. And so that can, it sounds like, help things go a lot faster to have some of that information.
Correct. And I'd just like to add, we do use the online translation services that are available to us, but knowing that country where those services were performed, when we do need translation, it helps us to get it to that right area that much sooner. So it does help with that time service of that translation. So that's why that was added.
Well, and while we're on the topic of claims, I wonder if we could talk just a little bit about, there's sort of two ways that claims get processed. One is, particularly for stateside claims, they go through a specially programmed computer that processes them per the benefits of the Foreign Service Benefit Plan. And last year, I think there was about 60% of our claims.
Right.
But
Yeah.
what about the others, the other 40% of claims? How are particularly overseas claims, the alternative benefits claims, how are those? How do you and your team handle those?
Yeah, so what happens, as Kyle said, when you submit them through the portal, that file gets sent down to us, and then we send it on to our imaging vendor. Those claims come to us via the image, just like your PDF. That's what we see. We see that cover sheet and whatever additional documents you submitted with that. They are actually pulled up, viewed, and then manually entered into our claim system for reimbursement.
And you've got a fantastic team. Some of these people have been with us have been working on the plan
Yeah.
as long as, or almost as long as you have, and are familiar with our benefits and various languages. They may not be able to order food in Germany, but they can
Right.
they'd be fine in a doctor's office.
Yeah.
Good. So
Yeah,
what?
it's amazing. I'll tell you, the average tenure all up for my operations is 14.7 years, but claims alone is 13. And the membership for the Foreign Service has grown so much, so that number did come down a little because we did have to hire additional processors to handle the volume. But 13 years is the average just for the claims processing.
That's incredible. And so, Bob, thank you, and your team, everybody there, for the work that you all are doing every single day, to keep the rest of us on track and to make sure members are getting reimbursed and have their claims processed.
Absolutely. And before we get more into the reimbursement process, lots of people are always very excited to learn about the alternative benefits that AFSPA offers. Anytime we do, health fairs, that's one of the main things people love mentioning. We'll even have massage therapists there sometimes, which we love. Employees do too. And so we do have some people who are, if they retire and move to Puerto Rico, they want to know if they can continue getting all of these extra benefits. So can you continue coverage with AFSPA if you retire and move to another place overseas or just wherever?
That's a good question. I'll take the lead on this one, and Barbara, if you have anything to add, please do. But I'll tell you the way the Federal Employee Health Benefits Program works, and this is the program, not just FSBP. I'll get back to some FSBP specifics in just a moment. But if you are eligible to carry your health insurance into retirement, that's a question for your HR or your retirement office. But if you're eligible to do that and you've been enrolled in the FEHB program, you can have switched plans, but you've been enrolled in the program for 5 years immediately preceding your retirement, then you can continue that into retirement. Now, for the Foreign Service Benefit Plan, you must, generally speaking, you must have had Foreign Service Benefit Plan sometime while you were an active employee to have it as an option in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
The exception there is people who retire under one of the Foreign Service retirement plans, and there's a number of them out there: the old plan, the new plan, etc. But if you retire under one of those, then you can select the Foreign Service benefit for the first time in retirement. However, others, perhaps namely those who retire under civil service retirement, must have had the plan sometime while an active employee to select it in in retirement. So the decision about actually being able to continue coverage of FEHB into retirement is really based on your HR and your retirement office and things like your tenure, whether or not you take an immediate annuity if you're eligible for one, et cetera. But as far as we're concerned, if you're eligible and you've had us while you were active, you can have us in retirement.
Yes.
So
And you can take it overseas. The benefits, I should mention,
Yeah.
the benefits don't change into retirement. They're the same benefits, unless you opt into our Medicare Advantage plan. That's a whole different thing. Go back and watch those recordings. We won't touch that one today. But the benefits are the same, and we consider all overseas providers, including those in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands and other territories except for Guam. We consider all of them to be in network. In Guam, we have our own network, the Netcare Guam network.
That's right. It's my understanding. Yep.
It looks like Miguel has asked a follow-up question. 5-year requirement must be consecutive services.
So I'm not sure. I'm going to answer about the 5-year requirement. You must have been enrolled in the FEHB program for 5 years. So you could have immediately preceding retirement. Now you can have TRICARE. TRICARE counts toward that 5-year requirement, but you must be enrolled in the FEHB program when you retire. So you could, let's say you're going to retire this year, you could have foreign service benefit plan now, but maybe last year you had Blue Cross, the year before that you had GEHA, the year before that you had an HMO for a couple years and so forth. So you can have changed plans, but you must be enrolled in the program for 5 years, or have TRICARE, which counts toward that 5-year requirement.
All right. It looks like we have a question from DK Fresh, who literally read my mind. I was just going to ask this. Where do I check the status of claims I submit through the AFSPA site?
Appreciate DK Fresh. Thank you for the question. So on the AFSPA site, you can confirm that you uploaded claims on the AFSPA portal. And then there's what a little bit below the claim submission area is a single sign-on that will take you to the Aetna site. And that is where you can actually check the status of claims. Right, Barb?
Correct. So as long as we entered the claim into the system, it will be out there. If we pended it for any information or there's any reason, that would all be available to view.
Okay. And you'll see the member.aetna.com. That's how you can get into that site. You do have to register for that separately.
Correct.
Once you've registered, that single sign-on is linked to your AFSPA member portal account. You can go in there, and then there's a way you can check the status of all your claims. Barb, is it fair to say that the best way that people can search for the claims is maybe by the date of service rather than the date they submitted the claim?
Oh, yes. I would definitely search by the date of service. That would be my first way. And the member, of course.
Excellent point, especially if you've got a self plus one or family enrollment. Absolutely look by member. And family members can, in the Aetna site, have their own account from, I believe it's age 13 and older, rather than just the one family account like we have under the member portal.
Yeah.
All right. And we also have had a couple of questions just asking, how long does the reimbursement process usually take after someone has submitted a claim?
Yeah. So we, OPM has certain goals which we exceed those, but our goal is always to process those claims within the 15 calendar days, is what we look. So, but if we have to send it for translation, if it's a claim that can't easily be translated, it can take longer for that. Currently, we're about at the 13th day. As it takes. So I would say on average, wait about 20 days, definitely within 30, it should be out there that we processed it. Because 95%, I think last year, we were at 99 point something within 30 days.
And Barb, you mentioned sometimes we have to, and this isn't specific maybe to alternative benefit claims, but sometimes we have to pend claims.
Yes.
What does that mean, and what might cause that to happen?
Yeah. So like, even for example, for like a massage claim, which I know is one of your big submissions, upon receipt of that claim, we first review it to first make sure that the services are covered and not excluded by the plan. And then once we do that, we use our online tools to search the provider. So the provider name, address, I'll tell you the telephone number helps us a lot as well. But we go in there to identify that provider and those services. And then once we're able to locate it, we do enter that into the system, and the claim should be able to be processed. But if we're lacking one of those or we can't locate the provider, then you may get a letter asking for the name and address or the name of the therapist that performed the services. And so you'll receive that letter, and then you can either call into AFSPA to provide that, respond by the letter. You could even do it through Aetna.com as well, to provide us that information. And then once we get that, we open that back up, resolve it, and finalize the claim.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And go ahead, Maddie.
Sorry, we have a couple of social media questions coming in, and we will try our best to answer everyone. So just know we see it and we're getting to it. But Jennifer has asked a good question. Is there any consideration or lobbying to increase the massage allowance above $60? She mentioned, additional massages are great, but it is almost impossible to find a legitimate provider in the United States within the $60 limit.
Fair enough. I'll take the lead on this one, Barb. So we work with Aetna every year, obviously, as we and with Express Scripts as we look at our benefits. And so this is a fantastic question. This is something that we've heard every year since I've been here. Just past my 10-year mark. So yes, to answer your question, yes, this is something we look at. This is something that we are looking at. I have to be careful because we haven't submitted everything to OPM and then we have to wait for their approval. So I'll put it this way. This is something we are seriously considering for 2024. Will it be enough to cover a massage in a high cost area in the United States? Probably not. Are we considering an amount more than what we have right now? Absolutely. And so we are looking at this. More to come in the fall when we've got full OPM approval about this, but for now, yes, please know that it is, we hear you, we understand, and it is under consideration. So thank you very much.
All right. And looks like we have a question from Allison. She has asked, when I retire and Medicare becomes primary and FSBP secondary, so long as I pay the full premium, are the benefits the same? And she asked, is the claim process the same as well?
Okay, great question. I'm going to answer some of it, and I'm going to turn to Barb about sort of how coordination of benefits works on the logistics side. But when you retire and Medicare becomes primary, there's, again, different recording about Medicare coming out. I think it may be posted. I think it was posted yesterday. We just did a webinar this week for State Department. So to answer your question, Medicare does become primary. So Part A covers your hospital costs and some other inpatient type costs. Part B, which is optional, so if you elect to have Part B, it becomes primary for your outpatient services, basically going to the doctor, labs, things like that, when you're in the United States. FSBP then pays secondary. FSBP will pay primary for services outside the United States, will also pay primary for services that are not covered by Medicare, such as massage therapy. I will note that you don't have an option other than to pay the premium as stated in plan materials. There's only one premium. There's no discount once you get Medicare, except on some other situations come with the Medicare Advantage. But generally speaking, continue to pay the same premium. And then the benefits, yes, essentially are the same, but Medicare pays primary, we pay secondary. And so, Barb, I know, it's important that members let us know that they have Medicare. It's also important, I think, that they let Medicare know that they've got us. But I wonder if you can just talk a little bit about how that happens. So a doctor submits a claim to Medicare. Medicare does their thing, maybe pays 80%, and then what happens next?
Yeah, so those claims actually, when that happens and the provider submits directly to Medicare, then Medicare sends us a file. You don't need to do anything, and we will get that claim along with what Medicare's payment was, and then we will pay that coinsurance to that provider. It should be fairly invisible, but you will still get an explanation of benefit that shows the total charges, the coordinated, what Medicare paid, what we paid, and what your liability, which usually should be zero. Because we do waive deductible and coinsurance when Medicare is prime. So what I would say too, let those providers submit for the process to work most efficiently for you.
That is great. And like Barb said, if you've got Part B and that the doctor either participates with Medicare, or technically the term is does not participate with Medicare, as long as they're not opt out, essentially you've got 100% coverage for coverage services. When Medicare pays their part, and they will come in and pay the balance.
All right. DK Fresh has some more questions for us. I'm going to kind of move towards receipts and kind of what you need to submit for reimbursement. So they have asked, our massage therapist can do $60 per visit if we buy a package deal of 5 visits. The bill may show a grand total of $300 since we have to pay up front. But will they still be able to submit individual claims and note that each visit is $60 if it is on different dates?
And
Yeah.
Barb, I know your team has mastered this because places like Massage Envy and
Yeah.
others offer these types of things. And so I'm going to close my mouth and learn.
Well, and we do get a lot of Massage Envy type claims. Those bills or invoices are very itemized. What we actually need is what that total amount is that was paid, but then the individual visits and who received them, so that we could break those charges down. So if it's like a 300, then when were those actual visits incurred? And then we will code it accordingly.
That's great. Yeah. So it's absolutely possible. But for instance, if I went out today and paid $300 for 5 visits, I couldn't submit the claim tomorrow and expect reimbursement right away until I've had all of those visits.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
That's correct. When they actually are incurred. So you would want to submit that proof that you paid that $300. And then as those visits are incurred, claim those.
All right. Janet from Facebook has asked, does the receipt have to be separate from a general spa receipt? And do we need to have any proof of the massage therapist being registered with the government or anything?
We've been dealing with this somewhat recently, so this is a
Yeah.
good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Barb, I'll go ahead.
Well, in the United States, most every state does require a licensure for massage therapists to perform services, and we do have online tools where we could search that information. So that receipt, I know sometimes you can get it from like a spa that will say the name of the spa, but then just give us the name of the therapist so that we can go ahead and look that up. Some websites, they're all different, but when you look up on a website, sometimes they'll list all the therapists that are within that particular spa, which is helpful. But the more information you could provide, that includes that full provider's name and address, the therapist's name, if you have the license. I mean, sometimes people will also include the little business card that has the license number on it. That is very helpful to us to look those up. But there's some states where, it's certification, it's not licensure. So it just depends on the state. And according to the brochure, section 3, we follow whatever that state regulation is.
Great. Along the same lines, we had a member ask, many countries don't have licensing for the therapeutic massage equivalent to the U.S. How is eligibility for the benefit determined when receiving massage therapy outside of the United States?
Yeah. And that's where it gets back to, upon that receipt, we first look to make sure that the services are covered, that it's a form of massage. Massages are covered, but there could be other types of service. But as long as it's covered by the plan, that is something that is allowed under that particular benefit. And then we just use those online tools. So we're going to look up the provider, the specific provider, the address. Like I said, the phone number really helps us as well. So we look up all that information to locate that provider. And we understand, countries are different. Some, we see more certifications, but again, it's the member providing us that information. Some will include that little business card that might have it. Some take a photo of the actual certification within that spa and include that with their claim. But just as much information as you could provide us with the provider, but the full provider name and address. If you have the telephone number, great, and the name of the therapist is what's key for us. But when we search, we're able to locate the bulk of them.
Right.
And if we need more information, then we will send a letter or we will ask for that information.
KH has asked, does the therapist need to be able to speak English? For example, will you call them for follow-up?
Generally speaking, I don't think we're calling the providers for follow-up, are we, Barb?
No.
On massage therapy. I'll just, we're talking about $60 as long as we've got the information we need. And that's Barb just outlined that, and it's outlined in the brochure also. We can process the claim, and we're generally not following up on that one.
All right. Okay.
And the reason I mentioned, I just want to clarify, the reason I mentioned that phone number is that's an identifier when you're using these online tools. It sometimes connects better when you're making those searches.
Okay. We have 2 questions from Joellen, it looks. They have said sometimes my receipt's really complicated. It shows $120 total, but $60 is for a facial, which is not covered, and then $60 for a massage. How do I submit that receipt?
Yeah, and I think Barb touched on this before. You can submit that receipt. Highlight it.
Yes.
An itemized. We need an itemized bill so that it shows that $60 was for the massage, $60 was for uncovered services, whether that's a facial or pedicure, manicure, whatever it may be. We need to see exactly what the service was and what the charge was, along with the other information about the provider, including their massage therapist's name, and then you can submit that. Just call that out.
Yeah.
Put a little star next to it or something like that. But Barb, please.
Yeah, just to clarify, I would not highlight it because that can affect the image. You might not be able to read it, but I would just line through those items you're not claiming. And like Kyle said, you could put a star, by the one that you are, and then just on your cover sheet, I'm claiming, $60 for the massage on whatever the date is. Other charges, it just make it clear on the cover sheet. It gives you that little space to do that. Any comments?
All right. Joellen has asked another question, here we go. He said, don't laugh at this question. What about if we get a massage on a cruise ship? Can we submit for reimbursement there?
So, cruise ship, airport, wherever it is, there's a lot of places that are offering massage therapists. So you can submit for reimbursement. Cruise ship, we technically consider that overseas for our other services, but yeah, submit it. We still need the same information.
Yep.
We still need the something that's itemized that shows you had a massage on what date, from whom, and their licensing or certification if applicable. Barbara, is there anything else we need?
Just that you paid it. Yeah, that you paid it. Like usually, like I said, though, some may give you a register receipt, and I've seen receipts that are just as detailed. It'll say XYZ Spa. It'll have the address. It'll say therapeutic or deep tissue massage. This amount. It's clear. So, most when you tell them, my plan gives reimbursement for massage, even ones that are just without a medical diagnosis. Can you provide me with the receipt? They will do that. Most will provide you something so that you can submit that and claim it. So, and on your website, I just want to add, it lists filing massage claims. There's a little link on the AFSPA website where you can go, and it tells you too everything that we need to reimburse that claim.
And Barb mentioned something just now that I think is important. She mentioned sort of without needing a medical diagnosis. That's an important thing for FSBP to get massage, chiropractor, or acupuncture. You don't have to have like a referral from a primary care physician or somebody else. If you feel like you would benefit from a massage, chiropractor visit, acupuncture service, go get one of those services. We don't require that you have a referral or a medical documentation for those to receive those.
Yeah. Now you do need a diagnosis for chiro. Like they will submit that. They will provide that on their backache or whatever it is. But for the massage, like at a spa, of course, you're not going to get that. And that's something that the provider of service may just say, well, you're just getting this for relaxation or whatever. That's okay. My plan will reimburse for that. Can you provide me a receipt? And most will.
All right. And then someone or DK Fresh has asked, his physical therapist does massage therapy, but they're not licensed as massage therapist, only their PT license. Could we submit a claim for a massage in this case?
Barb, you probably run into this.
Well, we would still reimburse it under the massage benefit for a physical therapist. I'd have to actually see the receipt. I don't know,
Exactly.
how they're billing it. It just depends if they use a procedure code, what procedure code, but if it's just you're at chiropractic offices and they also offer massage, we do reimburse that under the massage benefit.
All right. And then it looks like someone has asked, do massages in the US need to be in network? What's the situation with that?
So they don't. The benefit is the same for all three alternative benefits, whether you go to an in-network or network participating provider or out of network. I will say that there are a very limited number of massage therapists who participate in any network because it's so rare for insurance to cover these services. You may find more acupuncturists and chiropractors who are actually in network. And sometimes I've seen this with chiropractor in particular. If you go for an adjustment from a chiropractor, you go to somebody who's in network, the charge may actually be less than $60.
Right.
Again, depending on their agreement for the network. It may be actually a little bit less, and so you're not going to have to pay anything out of pocket in those circumstances because maybe they're only charging $50 for that adjustment, and the full benefit's $60, so you're not going to pay anything. But it's worth checking for in network, but it is rare, particularly for massage, to find somebody who's in network.
Yeah, you are correct. We do get them, but they are few. But I just want to add, any network provider that you are going to for alternative benefits, let that provider submit that claim because, as Kyle said, they have a contract with the Aetna network. And so the reimbursement may be less than $60, but we will pay 100% up to that plan allowance, that contracted rate, and you're not liable for the difference, and the provider should not bill you for the difference. Part of the contract is they should submit those claims. So your out of pocket could be less. So you want to take advantage of that, right?
One more question. I know that we have answered some of these, but not everyone was able to join immediately. So just to reiterate, it looks like Yvonne has asked, I submitted a claim for massage and chiropractic therapy. It shows up on the AFSPA site, but not on the Aetna. How long will it take for the claim to show on Aetna / is this normal?
Do we know how long it's been since they submitted it?
That is a great question.
Yeah. So Barb, you shared earlier that the claim doesn't show up in the Aetna system until it's
Actually processed,
finalized, right?
correct, till
Yeah.
we enter it into the system. So like
Okay.
when we're at 13 days today, for example, the claim is sitting there waiting to be entered. So you wouldn't see it until you would see it on your portal, but that you submitted it, but not within the Aetna.com until we actually process it.
Right. That's an important distinction, and so Yvonne, check that out, and in terms of the timing, it's not an automatic. Once it's here, the next day it's going to show up in the Aetna portal, and it does have to be manually keyed in.
And I would just say if it's over 30 days, I would definitely call the ASPA Service Center because we can expedite that if something happened to that claim. But without knowing the detail, it's hard to tell.
Right.
Okay.
So it looks like if you filled out the form that we sent out for AFSPA Live questions, and they may not have been about alternative benefits, I just want to let you know that our research team is handling it, so you should be contacted by them soon. I just know that some people may be wondering. And also, like, if you really feel like you want your question answered and it may not have been covered today, please email us at outreach@afspa.org. And we will make sure that someone gets your question answered and that you kind of know what's going on. This has been a great live today, and I think we're going to start wrapping it up. If anybody has any last minute alternative benefits questions, go ahead and shoot those off. But otherwise, you can find a recording of this live on our YouTube channel at AFSPA Cares. It'll immediately go up after we finish the live. And we will be back, I believe, is it May 18th? I think we're doing a little early.
It is. We have some special things happening next month, and including some personal things on my part, and I appreciate some flexibility. So we will be on May 18th, just a week earlier. Still on Thursday, still at 11 a.m., still available on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. Search for @AFSPA Cares. We will be having some more information about what is coming and what topics we'll be covering in that AFSPA Live. But I hope to see you again soon. And Maddie, thank you so much. This has been great. We've got it great, and thank you everybody who joined us. Barb,
Yes.
thank you first of all for 38 years. Supporting our members in so many different ways, and thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
Yes, I just have one other thing that I just thought of, and I know Kyle, when we were together not too long ago, you had said that sometimes members have trouble on the back end marrying up the claim submission they have with the different payments that might be issued. And again, the preferred way, as we said, is submitting through AFSPA's member portal, but also it helps when you submit one member, one provider per PDF. That way, because if you submit multiple members or multiple providers, we're going to have to separate them, which may make it more difficult for you on the back end. So that is the easiest and most efficient way for, I think, for you and for us to get those claims processed, because that's our goal, is to make sure that you get the reimbursement and the benefits that you deserve under the Foreign Service Benefit Plan. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
All right. I think that is it for today. We will be back, like we said, May 18th. And if there's, a topic that you want us to discuss on AFSPA Live really bad, let us know. We will be happy to talk about it. We know that a lot of our members had lots of questions about alternative benefits, and that's why we decided to host this one today. So thank you, Barb. Thank you, Kyle. Stu, you can see a recording of this on YouTube. You can watch any of our past AFSPA Lives. You know where to find us for our podcast on any streaming service that is there, and look through those if you have any further questions, because Kyle does dig deeper in the podcast sometimes. So be on the lookout for those, and thank you for watching.
Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you all.
Thanks for watching our broadcast. Join us again the last Thursday of every month at 11 a.m. Eastern. Also, don't forget to look for AFSPA Cares on all of our social media channels: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.